Getting it done down a man. That's what we do here on the Two Deep NFL podcast. Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. Thanks for joining us. Eric Eager from Supersports.com. He's here. Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network. He's not. He's on vacation as he gets ready for the long NFL season. We're going to break down the win totals for each and every team in the NFL. That's right. Not one, not two, not five, not 10, but 32 NFL teams. Some more than others, as it turns out. That's just the way it works. We're doing it right now on the Two Deep NFL podcast.
You're listening to the Two Deep Podcast, the most complete analysis of the National Football League, breaking down the NFL like no one else can. Two Deep is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Eric Eager, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Eric Eager is the vice president of research and development for Sumer Sports. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Two Deep is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Gann Asphalt and Concrete is now hiring for all positions: project manager, dump truck drivers, operators, and crew members. Starting pay up to $30 per hour based on experience, with paid time off and insurance, just to name a few of the benefits. Check out GannAsphalt.com for more info. Now, here are the hosts of the Two Deep Football Podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Eric Eager, and Soren Petro.
And thank you again for joining us here on the Two Deep podcast as we break down the overs and unders, a labor of love. Let me just say this, Eric. I'm a huge fan of the win totals, and I give people a reason. Always gamble responsibly. We're not encouraging anybody to run out there and bet the farm. There's nothing worth betting the farm on. But one of the reasons, if you haven't bet NFL win totals, that I really like to bet the win totals is because it gives you a reason to root for almost every game. If you bet all the win totals for just a few bucks, then you will have the reason to sit and root for your bets. So any game that comes on, even a dog, like, the Texans versus, I don't know, whoever else is going to be battling for that number one overall pick, you have a reason to watch that because you're rooting for your win total. So that's one of the reasons why I think it can be a fun way to play, a fun way to have action on the games is you can bet a little bit, yet it takes all season or most of the season to be able to, actually get a return on your bet. That's why I'm a fan of the totals. Anything you want to add before we dive in to the actual totals, Eric?
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. And it also puts you look, most of the time you're not going to be in a position to bet a little to win a lot. But if you bet a good win total, you might even get a possibility in week 16, 17, 18 to be able to get a middle. You might be in a situation where you're able to bet an under on a team, and then you could bet them against the spread and they lose and don't cover, and then you win both. There's a ton of really good things that a win total can put you in position for later in the season as well, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, I would agree. It's just action, right? Weren't you talking on? Podcast? You love your action.
Well, and the league is better. Yeah, we'll talk about gambling on the players gambling, I think, later. But players who play fantasy football or gamble watch on average 3 times more games per season than people that don't. So it makes the league more compelling.
Yeah, you got to love when people are arguing about the best ways to cover your mortgage in reference to gambling, when that's the big debate. that people are having in there. You got to love that one. So we'll keep an eye there for if somebody's got the mortgage game figured out. All right, we're going to go through the NFC and then the AFC. We're going to hit each one of the totals of the teams. We'll talk a little bit about the odds. That does factor into it because you might have to pay a higher price on it. So we'll talk about that as well. We're not going to get too into the weeds. For the most part, we're just going to focus on the win totals. But if Eric's got a point he wants to make, like, Philadelphia, the over is a minus 150. That's a 3-2 favorite there.
Yeah, it's about 50 cents is every half a win, by the way, for those score like in the price. So that's just, think about that for a second.
Yeah. So we will talk about some of those things here, but let's get started. Our impressions on how the season's going to go. And let's start in the NFC East. We'll do it alphabetically. Dallas Cowboys, 9.5 wins, the over, a little bit of a favorite, minus 130, plus 110 on the under. Who you liking? Where are you liking this one?
This is one that I think is fairly solid. I'll go over.
Okay, I'm on the over as well, and I'll tell you why I'm on the over is I'm on Mike McCarthy. I think Mike McCarthy's proven to be a good coach. I think he's underrated. I think the price reflects the underrated nature of him. I also don't think the division is that good. I expect a regression from the Giants. I don't think Washington's got the quarterback position figured out. I think Philadelphia's got a quarterback that subjects himself to a lot of hits. And I think there should be a regression out of the Philadelphia Eagles this year. Somebody's got to pick up that slack. I may be wrong and get burnt somewhere else, but it in the Cowboys. Dak Prescott, a solid quarterback as well. I think this is a pretty easy play here at the over.
Yeah, and Dallas, their schedule is about half a point harder than the average, but it's easier than Washington and New York's. So even though this is a division where every team won 8 or more games last year, but all the schedules were easy last year, the schedules are harder this year, but they're harder for Washington and New York than they are for Dallas.
All right, let's go to the Giants. I'll take this one first. I'm on the under, and it's a minus 140 favorite. I think it's there for a reason. I think first-year head coaches often get a kiss. We've seen a lot of first-year head coaches be named Coach of the Year. They take over a bad team. They basically get everybody to be on their best behavior and focus in. And Brian Daboll, and if they're more than that, then they'll back up that kind of surprise season with a really strong second season. So we find out how good Brian Daboll is this year. But I'm not a Daniel Jones fan. I think they've got a lot of questions there. They've got a running back that's holding out. And to just assume that the team is going to come in and play above 500 football again, no, I don't like it. I think the under is a heavy favorite for a reason. I'm on the under on the Giants.
Yeah, the other thing is, so their schedule is terrible. Their schedule was so easy last year. This year they open home to Dallas on Sunday night, go to Arizona, shouldn't be too hard, and then they stay out west Thursday night the following week, go to San Francisco. Seattle at home is not going to be no cookie. And then at Miami, at Buffalo. So you're looking at 4 of the first 6 are on the road. And then they go Washington at home, Jets at home. Neither one of those is going to be easy. And then they do 3 consecutive road games. So you're looking at the first, they have 7 of their first 11 are on the road, and they don't get a bye until week 13. The schedule, they could be out of it by Thanksgiving. And again, I think this team could be better last year. They'd be favored against themselves last year on a neutral and still have a much worse record.
Okay. I'll give you the honors. I'll give you the honors on the Eagles. Where you go there?
When I look at Eagles, I see, so we're looking at 11.5. I'll go over.
You've got 11.5 because I've got 10.5 of the minus 150 over.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so every win is okay. Yeah, I take over. I make it 11.5 is what my numbers make it 11.5.
Okay. So you've got them at over. I'm going to take the Eagles under, and like I said, the over's favorite. But I think I think this one. I to be honest with you, I won't bet this one. But we're going to pick all of them in here. I will not be playing the Eagles under. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe I'll find a reason to talk myself into it before it's all said and done. I have not put any wagers in on the totals yet. I may regret that with some of the line moves that I think have burnt me. Like I was all about the under on the Giants. I don't like that it's at minus 140. I kind of thought I didn't think I'd have to pay that kind of change for it or that it would go up that fast. But on the Eagles, I do think a regression is there. And Nick Sirianni might be the real deal, but he's changing out both coordinators. That's a reason why I will take the under. I think that's a big a big hurdle to cover when you're as young a coach as he is. So give me the under on the Eagles. But again, I may not be going to the window.
I'd rather bet Cowboys division than bet Eagles under. If I'm going to fade the Eagles, that'd be my only. But I understand where you're going.
Okay. Let's go to the Washington Commanders, 6.5. I'm showing over at -120. Where you?
I take over. I make it more like 7.5. I think they have a lot of talent, and I'm a believer in Bieniemy. And I think that 6.5 is way too low.
Okay. What was this one? Washington won 8 games last year.
Well, the schedule differential is the reason. Like last year, there were about every game was a point easier on the neutral field. This year, every game's about 2/3 of a point harder. So it's a schedule differential, and it's also like, as much as you don't like to hear it, the market downgrades you from Wentz to Howell. Even though we know Wentz sucks, Howell could be much worse. And like I think that's the play there, Noah.
All right, the NFC North, Chicago Bears -135. This is a number set at 7.5, so -135 to the over. People like the Bears over. Where do you like them?
Yeah, this one's it's close. I make it 7.3, so I'll be on under Bears. I just I got to see it. The Bears are way too haughty right now for me to bet into them. Bears fans.
No quarterback, no bet or bet against. That's my motto in this. I am, I may be looking like a fool at the end of this year if Justin Fields at all clicks. I don't see it clicking, and I think if you can't play quarterback, now they did add a lot of personnel. They had a lot of draft picks and all those things that are to it. I give them a chance to be a salty 9-8 this year and blow this bet up on me. So I don't love it, but this for me is either a stay away or auto bet against the quarterback. I'll take the under on the Bears as well. Let's go to the Detroit Lions. Your Detroit Lions, 9.5, -120 is the odds I saw. I pick them on the under, so -120 to the over. Where do you sit on your?
Yeah, I have to go under here.
It's 8 Lions, your Detroit Lions.
8.7 is what I make it. So I would go under just with the odds here. And you're going to see in one of my other plays where I see all those wins going.
I have them under as well, but that's because I'm staying with what I've said all along. Dan Campbell, I don't see it. You had him as in our second tier of head coaches, yet you're still going under. Something doesn't jibe there. How do they come?
The price is too much.
But your point wasn't that the price is -120.
But the 9.5, that you're basically saying they're a 10-win team. That's a lot for a team.
To call a guy, I'm calling into question. You're putting Dan Campbell up as high as you did in your coach tiers. If he's worth that, for God's sake, he's got to come in as a playoff team at some point, doesn't he?
Okay, but you're gonna see where the numbers come in on a different team. Like I think it's just like I like the Lions to be an above 500 team barely, but getting them to 10 is a tough sell.
All right, Green Bay -110 both ways on 7.5. I'm on the over.
Yeah, I make Green Bay at least an 8-9 win team, and this is where I think Matt LaFleur, for one, their schedule is easier than Detroit's. I think Matt LaFleur is a much better coach than people give him credit for. And so I think that you have to go over on Green Bay.
Okay. By the way, I love this. I was on vacation in Europe. I see this question. Soren, did you make it to the Coliseum to see the Lions win? The proverbial line. I did make it to the Coliseum, as a matter of fact. It was quite a hot day in Rome that day. Did not see any Lions, but saw where the Lions were kept at one point. The Green Bay Packers for me are an over because Matt LaFleur can coach, and I expect Jordan Love to be better than advertised. I think you're getting a real kiss there to still have them at -110. If Jordan Love implodes, this could be one where you look really silly at the end, but I think they should be a salty team for most of the year, so I think that's pretty easy. Vikings -120 to the over 8.5, even money on the under. Where are you, Eric?
Under. I think this team could be pretty good on offense, but I think they're gonna make the 2018 Chiefs defense blush.
Okay, so you're under on the Vikings at 8.5.
Defensively, they're just not good enough.
Yeah, I'm under as well. I don't love it, but I'll take the under just because I feel like I'm not. At some point, Kirk Cousins is going to get old. I don't think he's going to be a guy that plays to age 40. That year may come this year, but I also just think there was a lot of luck really that went into it. Weren't they negative point differential when they were out at 7, 8, 9-0 or something? That means a lot of things were going their way. That means a lot of things should go against them this time. So I'll take the under on the under on the 8.5 on the Minnesota Vikings. NFC South, Atlanta Falcons at 8.5, over plus 110, under minus 130. 8.5, a pretty good number for a team that hasn't sniffed any kind of playoff run for quite some time. Who has it right? Putting 8.5 up there that high, or the minus 130 to the under?
Well, there's a lot of sharp money right now on Falcons over, and I think it's because of the schedule. Their schedule this year is a point easier than the average team on a neutral field. Them and the Saints have the two easiest schedules in football. So that for that reason, I'll go over. I just think it's going to be a Mickey Mouse. Everybody's going to be like, oh, did they zig when everybody zagged? And it's like, no, they're an average team that won 9 games because their schedule was easy.
I can see that happening as well, but I'm not convinced that they have the quarterback position figured out. See what I said earlier when it came to the Bears. If you don't have the quarterback, I don't necessarily have to bet against you, but I won't bet on you. Mm-hmm. I would sit it out, or I would play the under on the Falcons. But I do think that they're doing a lot of things right, and I do like Arthur Smith. So that kind of intrigues me there on the Atlanta Falcons. Like that, I want to bet the over. But I have certain things, like there have been times that I found that, and at the end of the day, I'm like, I know not to bet teams without quarterbacks. Why do I do it? Like one of these teams that I'm betting against the under, putting the under on with no quarterbacks is going to go over. The quarterback's going to have a charmed year. The schedule will smile on them. They've got good coaching, and they will get there. But routinely, without quarterbacks, you don't go far, which brings us to the Carolina Panthers, who have the 1-1 quarterback starting for them. 7.5 wins, the over at minus 135. The under at plus 115. Is this a referendum on coach, quarterback? What do you think about this one, Eric?
Yeah, I'm going to go over on the Panthers. I like Frank Reich a lot. I think he was caught up in a lot of BS in Indianapolis. I think Bryce Young will be fine. Offensive line's a lot better than it was 2 years ago. They now their weapons, there's got to be some breaks there, but they brought in Chark, Thielen, Hurst to go along with Chenault. And Terrace Marshall, backfield, they have Miles Sanders, who's a good back from Philly. I think they'll be okay. I think that they'll go over this number.
Yeah, I'm all about the Frank Reich. I also believe in Bryce Young. I think the over is a pretty strong play here. How much cause for concern when you put this together do you have when you see that the betting market, which you always talk about, the sharps are the one that move it, the over is minus 135. So I was thinking I had it backwards, but I'll ask the question anyway, even though it doesn't apply in this situation. Does it bother you when all of a sudden, like, your side is way on the plus?
No. I think with win totals, you don't want to get into this questioning of, is Vegas trying to bait me? Like, they're not. Like, they're just trying to put the odds where they're trying to make a fair number, right? In a perfect world, it's not quite this way, but they want to make a number where half the time it lands on one side and half the time it lands on another. And with win totals, because they're only in increments of a half, that it can't do that. So they change the price to try to balance the action. And that, that's not quite true, but it's a good rule of thumb. They're not trying to bait you. For me, it's just like you got to go through every game and kind of make a little bit of a prediction for every game. And if it lands on the over, you bet over. If it lands on the under, you bet under.
All right. So on New Orleans, 9.5, under is minus 125, over plus 105. Where are you?
This is one where I'm going against my numbers because look, if Derek Carr hosts a playoff game in his career, I'll eat my hat. Derek Carr sucks. So I'm betting under.
Where does Dennis Allen figure into this? I don't see Dennis Allen.
Look, Demario Davis is one of the most impressive players of the last 10 years that no one's talking about. He's made All-Pro, Pro Bowl like 4 straight years, all over 30. When your best defensive players are all like in their 30s, Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, Lattimore's younger, but he's getting close to 30. Tyrann Mathieu, all those guys, and you lose depth. You lose Hendrickson one year, you lose David Onyemata this year, you lose, it's going to crumble.
They won't bite the bullet and take it on the chin with the cap one year. They're sentencing themselves.
You lose Teron Armstead one year. Like, that team has pieces, but they chip off a piece every year, and they're like, oh well, at some point Cam Jordan's going to get old. At some point Demario Davis is not going to be able to run anymore. And then what? Like that. And then you scaffold on top of that Derek Carr, and any little thing that happens bad to a team, Derek Carr folds like a lawn chair. You cannot get me further away from the Saints over.
No, I'm with you. All right, Tampa Bay 6.5 over +110, under -130.
Under. This team's not trying to win.
No, I agree. You either bet under or you get the hell away from this one. And to
$75 million in dead cap.
I think that this is a team that may be doing what the Patriots should have done when Tom Brady left.
Right.
I think this may be full tank.
Party's over. Party's over.
And they're going for Caleb Williams the way that the Patriots should have been going for Trevor Lawrence the year after Tom Brady left, but the Patriots didn't do it. All right, that takes us to the NFC West. Arizona Cardinals at 4.5 -130, over +110, under. Where are you?
Under. This team is not trying to win either. There's nothing more we need to say, I think.
I would disagree. This team is absolutely trying to win. They're just incompetent and can't do it. That's the problem there. You either bet under or don't play it. Do you have a number at 4.5 that it gets so low that you're like, listen, you can back ass into a couple of them?
No.
Is there a number you won't bet on?
There's no worse feeling than, because I was on some Jets over 6.5 wins and 5. There's no worse feeling than needing a team that's garbage to win games in December for your over to go in, and that's where the Cardinals are going to be.
Agreed. I've had bets that I thought were crafty and we're going to get over 6.5 or 7, and the team was obviously just absolute trash. And that became apparent to me. And there is no more sickening feeling than knowing that you're dead in the water. I get that. But my point is, can they make a number low enough that mathematically, or for you comfort wise, you won't bet under, right? We're going to pick each one. So we're going to pick the 4.5.
Yeah.
And turn it around. And is there a number that's too high where it becomes an auto? I can't bet over that number. I either sit it out or I bet under it, because you start.
Yeah, I think 3.5 is probably my breaking point where I think about it. But the issue is
wait, what was the number?
3.5.
3.5. Okay.
Like the only thing that they have going for them is the Rams are also not trying to win that much this year. We'll talk about that in a sec. But the Rams kicked the hell out of the Cardinals in the McVay era, right? Like that's the one team the Rams might beat a couple times.
Okay, let's go to the Rams at 7.5 +135 to the over, -155 to the under on 7.5. Where are you?
I think the Rams will try. So this is one where if I'm actually like giving out advice, I wouldn't bet it this time. I would wait until maybe they're kind of spunky in September and then go under, because this team's going to try until Donald, Cup, or Stafford gets hurt, and then they're playing for a draft pick. And like so. If those guys are healthy,
not their own draft pick, they're playing for somebody else's draft pick.
Yeah,
they don't have any picks.
They don't have one in this year either. I thought that they finally have. Oh no. Okay, yeah. So then they're still. To me, I just don't think that they're going to play. And like, look, if you get lucky and Donald, Cup, and Stafford stay healthy all year, bless you. I'm not making that bet.
Okay, so you're going under. I'm going to go over. On the Rams. They get the quarterback back. I think that's a big part of it. I think McVay can coach. I do worry about McVay's motivation. I don't like hearing about the coach, whether he will or won't be back all the time. But I think this is one where they can circle the wagons. I do think they do some things right there with the Rams. So I think Matt Stafford will make a huge difference if they can protect him, which I'm going to count on the offensive line to be better. I'll take the Rams over. I only have to get to 8 and 9 to get there. So I may be chewing on my nails and needing the last one to get there, but I think they will get there. San Francisco at 10.5, -120 over, even money on the under.
Yeah, this one's tricky, right? Because everybody looks at last year as the example for why they can win with any quarterback. But the Niners, since 2015, have either made the NFC title game or lost 10 or more games. And the years they lose 10 or more games, it's when the quarterback gets hurt, except for last year. So a lot of questions around the quarterback. I'm probably 10.5 to me is probably the right number. I'm going to go under.
Ooh, really? Okay.
I think that there's look, I think we got baited into last year thinking that they can win with any quarterback. And no, Shanahan didn't win with Mullins. He didn't win with Beathard. He didn't win with these other guys. He didn't win with Lance. He won with Garoppolo. That's the only, and Purdy. And Purdy, I don't know if I told the story on this show, Purdy worked out with one of my good friends, Sage Rosenfels, just for the Shanahan system. And so he had the answers to the test before he was even drafted to the Niners. And that was a special case. I think we're all assuming Sam Darnold's going to be okay there if he has to play. I reject that notion.
Who do we think? And Noah John asked this question, by the way. If you're catching us via the podcast, we do stream live each and every Tuesday about 9 o'clock Central Time if you want to be a part of it. He said, who's the quarterback in San Francisco this year, week 1? Who would you bet on? Is Trey Lance still going to be there?
No, I think Purdy starts week 1.
Week 1, you think he'll be ready to go?
Yeah. I think they'll try to make it work. Wow.
Okay. All right. Last one in the NFC, Seattle Seahawks, 8.5, minus 130 to the over, 110 to the under.
One of the best bets on the board, over.
Yeah. I won't go so far as to say it's one of the best bets on the board, but Pete Carroll has proven he can coach. I think Geno Smith's proven he can at least manage the game. I'll take the over, betting Pete Carroll to have a winning record is never a bad idea, and you don't have to bet him. You don't have to lay very much to get there at minus 130. By the way, we're brought to you by GAN Asphalt and Concrete. Hiring for all positions, project manager, dump truck drivers, operators, crew members, starting pay up to $30 per hour based upon experience, paid time off, insurance, just a couple of the benefits. Go to GANasphalt.com for more info. GAN Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot, online at GANasphalt.com. Let's go to the AFC East, Eric. Buffalo Bills, 10.5, minus 140 to the over, plus 120 to the under. What do you say?
I think a lot of people want to fade Buffalo right now, but I actually think that they're still a solid team. I'm going to go over here.
I'm with you. The Bills, I don't like laying the 140. But I think over is the only way to play. They've got the quarterback. They've got a lot of the pieces in place. I don't know why you'd try to sit and find a losing streak somewhere for them there. Miami Dolphins, 9.5, even money to go over, minus 120 to go under. A lot of this to me is a referendum on how healthy the quarterback can stay and whether or not you believe that this coach is a difference maker.
Yeah, under. I mean, the chance that one of those two things is true is pretty high. The chance that both of them are true is pretty low.
I'm more bullish on McDaniel being the real deal. I do like Brian Dable as well, but I bet the under on the Giants, expecting on a regression. And I think this is the exact same thing on the Miami Dolphins. This is what I do on a regular basis, and I do it all the time, and I generally win more than I lose. I'm probably going to get stung somewhere, but the Dolphins bounced out there. I'm going to count on the regression after a nice first season that everybody kind of has a letdown, that we're all good, and the Dolphins get off to a much slower start and struggle to get there. I think a 9-8 season, 8-9 is what's in store for the Miami Dolphins. I'll take the under as well. Patriots, 7.5, minus 120 to the over, plus 100. Even money on the under. What do you got?
Under on Patriots.
Don't like the team. Believe Bill Belichick's done.
I think Belichick is getting a premium still, and he was great great. The defense was awesome last year, especially down the stretch. Mac Jones, I think, will be better, but I think it's still the division's a house, so it's going to be hard for them to compete.
I'm going to take the over. I'm not loving it. I worry that I'm jumping on the fact that I get a little more change on the over side of it. I do think Bill Belichick can still game plan, can still coach defense. I do like some of the personnel moves. I think DeAndre Hopkins probably lands there when it's all said and done, and I think that'll be an impact. I think they'll quit screwing around with the two quarterbacks. Mac Jones has a better chance to have success. They've got a real offensive coordinator. I'm a Bill O'Brien fan as far as his football coaching, so I think they'll be an improved team. I'll take the over on the New England Patriots. Jets at 9.5, minus 130 over.
Yeah, I think you have to go over on the Jets. Look, like the Rodgers is, to me, going to be good this year, and then it's going to fall apart.
Okay. Let's go to the I've got the Jets on the over, but I don't love it. I got to pick one side or the other. I assume Aaron Rodgers is going to be motivated. I do like a lot of the personnel on the Jets. If they don't win, it's because Robert Salah is going to get fired because he can't coach.
I mean, they're all going to get fired.
I think he can coach, and so I think they'll win at least 10 games there with the Jets. Baltimore Ravens, 9.5, minus 120 on the over.
Under.
Ooh, why?
I like adding Monken. I like, obviously, re-signing Lamar. The wide receiving core looks better than last year. Offensive line has not gotten better. Defense is a horror show now, right? They lose Chuck Clark. They lose Marcus Peters. Pass rush on the edge. You're looking at guys who are younger who have proven nothing. Linebacker, Roquan Smith is fine. Patrick Queen stinks. So you're kind of looking at a flip of what's normally true about them. They're going to probably have a decent offense and a bad defense. And in that conference, look at the wide receivers. Pittsburgh's got Johnson, Pickens, and Freiermuth. The Bengals have their trio, and the Browns have Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones. In that division, their defense is going to get roasted. And has Lamar Jackson ever shown that from behind he can be a passer? Like that, there's a lot of unknowns with that Ravens team.
Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland are all similar teams. John Harbaugh coaches the Baltimore Ravens. I'm on the over for that factor and that factor alone. Cincinnati Bengals, 11.5. The under at minus 130, much to the chagrin of Jamar Chase.
Yeah, you got to go over on the Bengals. I think this is the last year where the Bengals are a true and unmitigated threat to the Chiefs.
I think, yeah, they've got all the pieces in place. They've got a head coach that's proven himself. They've added depth to the O-line. I don't know how much better they got on the offensive line. I think I don't love having to bet them up at 11.5. That is a big number, but I think it's over or don't play when you have Joe Burrow. And if you can expect him to stay healthy, then I think you like the over on that one. Cleveland at 9.5, minus 150 to the under on the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, 9.5 is a tough index there. I like them, but I'd rather bet them to win the division or win the Super Bowl or the AFC than I would rather bet them over, just because you're getting better payout. I think the Browns could win anywhere from 3 to 13 games this year. So I think it's going to be under here.
So you're on the under, or you're saying that because of the change? Because
the price is too much.
Price is too much, but how many more games will they win?
But 9.5 is like, I have them more about 8.5, 9 as my projection, right? So I'm just going with the numbers here. But I do think the Browns have real upside, but on average, I still think 9.5 is too high.
I will not be playing this at all because I can't bring myself to bet the Browns over, even though they're on the plus side. I wouldn't yell at anybody who did, but I'm not convinced that the coach is going to get it together there. I'm on the under as well. Don't love it, won't bet it, but I'll put the under down for this. Steelers 8.5, minus 130 to the over. You believe in Pittsburgh?
I kind of let me look at what my numbers say, because I actually don't know off the top of my head. I have it at 8.4. So I'm pretty sharp, Soren. God, but I actually kind of think I'll go under, but I do think, again, this team is going to surprise people a little bit. Like, their defense, I don't like as much. Offense, I think the quarterback can be better than people. Like, I think the quarterback's better than what people believe, but 8.5 is still a lot in that division.
I'm gonna say over. Like, when I look at this division, I've got over on the Ravens, over on the Bengals, over on the Steelers, and I have no problem with betting over on the Browns. Right? Like, the whole division can't do that, and that's what scares me. I'm gonna take over because I believe in Mike Tomlin. And Mike Tomlin, I think, will exceed expectations, as he usually does. Kenny Pickett has a year under his belt. I'll take the Steelers to have a solid go of it this year.
Yeah, the one thing is the schedules aren't that bad for the AFC North. And last year you did have an example where all the teams in the NFC East went over because they all had easy schedules: Washington, New York, Dallas, and Philadelphia. But it's rare, to your point.
If you own or manage a business, don't let the first impression you make with your clients, with your customers, be a parking lot that looks like the surface of the moon. Have a perfectly smooth parking lot with Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proud sponsor of Too Deep, our NFL podcast, serving the greater KC area. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Parking lot problems, they're no more. Been solving them since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. reviews. Every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at ganasphalt.com. One contractor, all things parking lot. That's Gan Asphalt Concrete, online at ganasphalt.com. Let's go to the AFC South. Houston Texans at 6.5. They're minus 130 to the under. Where are you?
I'm actually over on Houston. I think other than wide receiver, they're pretty solid roster-wise. Not great anywhere. And, obviously if the second pick overall and the third pick overall, Stroud and Anderson, play up to their potential in year one, they can be pretty good. But that roster, if you look up and down, it's not there's nowhere other than wide receiver where you're looking, you're like, ugh. So that's a surprise, but I think Houston's put together a decent club.
Yeah. I'm on the over as well. I don't understand why a team that's been this bad for this long is carrying a 6.5. So there's something baked into that. It's that you said it. Their roster is better than I think most.
Third easiest schedule in the NFL.
DeMeco Ryans is a guy that people want to play for. I think when he steps in, there's going to be a boost. I think everybody will be on their best behavior for the same reason we saw the Giants with a team that I don't think is that good get to the playoffs. I'm not saying the Texans are going to the playoffs, although this would be the division to try to make it happen. If something happened to Trevor Lawrence, that would open the door. But I don't see that happening. But I do see, for some reason, them being a crafty little 7-10, 8-9. I think this one may come down to the last game of the year, but I'll bet on DeMeco Ryans to get it done. Indianapolis Colts at 6.5, minus 140 the over. Where are you?
Is this the Colts?
Yeah, Colts minus 140 over 6.5.
I'm taking over. This is the one. This to me is the team to bet on in this division the most. I've said it a few times. Like Steichen was the coach for Herbert's Rookie of the Year campaign. He was the coach for Hurts, and I think in the ceiling sense, Anthony Richardson combines those two players. You also have a great running game with an offensive line that I think is better this year now that they're healthy. Jonathan Taylor as well. And the fourth easiest schedule in all of football. So I think that I think the Colts 6.5 is way too low.
Really? That scares the hell out of me because I am not believing that Anthony Richardson is ready to step in and guide the ship. And I don't know how far you can get with Gardner Minshew. So I'm on the under, but I don't love it. I probably will not play it, but I'll take the under on the Colts. But you really got me thinking, can I change it?
You can change it. You haven't made a bet yet.
I'm going to go over. Actually, I'll take it over. The rosters, they should be better. They've got an offensive line. Gardner Minshew he'll be the guy who starts most of the games, and they'll go 7-10. That's what I think will happen.
They were a mess last year, but Jim Irsay is not. I mean, he's a weirdo, but he's not without pride, right? And I think last year was an embarrassment for the franchise. And I think at least for a year or two, he kind of stays out of the way of the coach, and because it got kind of out of hand last year. That's one of my buy cases for them.
All right, Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are back at 9.5, minus 130 to the over. What do you got?
Under. The left tackle Cam Robinson's out for the first 4 games with PEDs. Jawan Taylor's to Kansas City. He's replaced by a first-round pick in Anton Harrison. Offensive line, both tackles. That's tough with a young quarterback. They do have great playmakers, and Ridley comes in, but we forget Calvin Ridley missed games not just because he was gambling. He was missing games with mental health. He missed games with injury. That is not as sure of a thing as everybody in football Twitter wants to make it believe. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I'm just not a huge fan of their secondary. So they should be favored to win this division, but you're paying too much. Laying 160 for them to win their own division is nutty, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm on the under as well. I don't love the under, but Doug Peterson, I think, will mimic somewhat like Andy Reid. Andy Reid missed the playoffs in his second season, fell to 9-7. I think there'll be a little bit of a regression. They poured all their money. They spent all their cap last year. I don't think they're that much better personnel-wise this year. I'm with you. I'm on the under as well with Jacksonville. Tennessee, 7.5. The under is minus 130. Where are you?
Yeah, I'm under. This team could go really bad this year. You have two, it sounds like they have Will Levis, but Will Levis is being outplayed by Malik Willis in OTAs. And then, Tannehill has been pretty good, but he's on offensive coordinator number 3 in 4 years. Defense, they do get Harold Landry back from an injury with Jeffrey Simmons, so that could be okay. We have seen them at a very good place defensively, like Kansas City, where they held the Chiefs to 20 points in a full game last year. But there's just so much that can go wrong for this team. They just don't have personnel. And I know Vrabel's a good coach, very good coach. But I just can't see it.
I'm betting Vrabel to go over the 7.5. I don't love it, but I'm betting on the coach that he'll find a way in a division that I think the door is open to do it. So I'll have Tennessee getting to probably like a 9-8. I don't love Tennessee for any kind of magical run like they've gone on before, but I'll take them over. I like Mike Vrabel that much. AFC West, Denver Broncos, 8.5, -110 each way. What do you think?
This one's an over, right? Like 2 years ago, Sean Payton took Trevor Siemian, Ian Book, Taysom Hill, and Jameis Winston to 9 wins. If the Broncos would have scored more than 20 points in a game last year, they probably would have make the playoffs last year. It's good defense. They do lose to Giro Evero, which is tough, but they're a very solid bunch. And I think I don't think Russell Wilson's going to go from an 8 to a 0 in 1 year. So I think you're going to get some. They're the team that I think challenges for a playoff spot that you don't believe in the AFC West. They're the challenger.
Okay. I'm on the over as well. It's all about Sean Payton. I'm with you. I don't think Russell Wilson can be as bad as he looks. I think Hackett was that god-awful, and improves that coaching does matter. So I'm on the over on the Denver Broncos as well. Kansas City, 11.5, -140.
Over.
Yeah.
We don't really have to say much more.
You either bet over or you don't bet it. I with the 17 games, I'm surprised we haven't seen 12 used more, and I would think this would be a spot to use it. But traditionally in the 16 game schedules, they didn't like to put anybody over 11.5. But with that extra game, I'm surprised we're not seeing a 12 or 12.5 even out of the Chiefs with their history here. But so jump on it, -140 to go over, but either play it over or don't play it. Everybody's favorite, the Los Angeles Chargers. I was going to do the Raiders first and save the Chargers. I'll do that. Let's do the Raiders first because the Chargers are one of the more compelling numbers that are out there. 7.5 under is -150. Where do you sit?
Under. I mean, you got to bet the alts on the Raiders. This team's not trying to win. Oh, well, sorry. So they're trying to win, but they won't.
Yeah, they're trying to win. They're just not good at it. And I'm with you. I just think the fact that Denver and the Chargers and the Chiefs are good, I think this team could very easily go 1-5 or 0-6 in the division. It's tough to get it done, get to an over. Would you do that? I think 7.5. I think the betting public and the smarts, the sharps are showing the way here at -150. People continue to hit it. Even when they're laying big numbers, I think the under is the route there, the only route there. Chargers at 9.5, -110 both ways. Last one on the board.
Under. You have to fade the Chargers. That's the only way to make money in this world.
Is it no matter if they had 7.5, would you say under?
No, but they're not. So I mean,
what did your number come out? Like
8.6.
8.6.
Their average game is about half a point harder than the average team on a neutral field. How much of that is having to face the Chiefs twice? Some of it, but the Chiefs are only like 7 points better than the average team on a neutral. It's all over the place, right? It's the Broncos being a little bit better. They got beat by the Broncos last year too. We forget that.
Yeah. I can see this division being the one that has like 2 10-7s and a 12-5. 12-5 Kansas City, 10-7 Broncos, 10-7 Chargers. New offensive coordinator. They do have the quarterback in place. I'm actually going to take the over on this one. I'll take the Chargers to go over. I think the Raiders just hand out wins that make it easier. I don't love it, but I got to believe that the new offensive coordinator gives them a jolt and gets them going. I'll take it over when it's all said and done. Any other, little nugget you want to add to the mix as we have now gone through all 32 NFL teams in 45 minutes?
Yeah, I think that you want to consider alt totals for some of these teams too. Like what I mean by that is think about, like if you're going to go under on the Cardinals, maybe go under 3.5 and get a better price. Or if you want to go over on the Broncos, maybe go over 10.5 at a better price. Like those are places where you can bet a little and win more than some of these that are offered at the sort of, normal index.
I'm looking, we disagreed on one. Let's see, one. 2, 3, 4, 5. This is great podcasting. 6, 7, 8. 8 out of 32. You surprised we didn't disagree more? 75% of the time we're on the same side.
No, because I think you and I agree on a lot of things, and the places where we disagree, I think, are, they're places where it's kind of a coin flip anyway. Colts, we actually ended up agreeing on that, but they're the Ravens, for example. Like the Ravens literally are coin flip as to whether or not Lamar's healthy all year. So obviously one of us is going to take heads and one of us is going to take tails.
Yeah, that makes sense. Jeff Chadiha on vacation. He'll be back with us for the Two Deep NFL podcast next week. We're proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, making parking lot problems disappear since 1994. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. One contractor, all things parking lots. GannAsphalt.com. For Eric Eager from ConsumerSports.com, my name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Two Deep NFL podcast.